All right, welcome back to another video. My name is Ian Major. I'm an entrepreneur, Bitcoin pleb, and all-around raging capitalist. And in today's video, I'm excited to be bringing you a tutorial on the Electrum Bitcoin wallet. Electrum's been around for a very long time. Really one of the more flexible wallets, has a ton of functionality, a ton of interoperability with different cold storage wallets. Run it with your own node. I mean, it really is quite impressive. And so this entire video is going to be a little more advanced. If you're sort of brand new to Bitcoin, I would suggest you first take a look at some of my other videos that I will link in the description down below. But in today's video, it's going to be pretty action-packed. I want to go through Electrum, but I want to also use this as an excuse to cover multi-signature. I think Electrum has one of the better interfaces for creating a multi-signature or multi-sig wallet. And so I'm going to do kind of a basic tutorial on Electrum, but then also hit on how to create a multi-sig wallet. And so first and foremost, we're going to just talk about what is multi-signature, what are situations in which I would want to use it and perhaps not use it. And then we'll talk about Electrum and go into the tutorial. So for those who are returning to the channel, welcome back, my friends. It is great to have you. And for those who are new to the channel, welcome to you as well. I hope you find this content useful and valuable. If you do, consider subscribing. That really does help get the message out to more folks on their quest to becoming financially sovereign, which is what this channel is all about. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk briefly first about what is multi-signature. All right, so let's talk about multi-signature or multi-sig. This is really nothing more than a wallet that requires multiple private keys in order to send or control the funds in that wallet. And so this is typically set up using a K of N framework. N is just the total number of private keys that can sign for that multi-signature wallet, and K is the number that are required to sign. For example, a 2 of 3 multi-signature wallet means that there are 3 total private keys that can sign for this wallet. And 2 are required. Any 2 are required to kind of access and send funds from that wallet. Pretty straightforward. N can go up quite a bit, and that's probably going to increase over time as well. And let's think about some of the different kind of use cases that this would be good for. It's in some ways analogous to a joint bank account. Maybe you and a friend are starting up a business, and you create a 2 of 2 multi-signature wallet that requires both of you to sort of be in consensus and sign the wallet to spend funds. This will certainly be important for certain corporate use cases where you have multi more complex governance structures, things like that. But it's also potentially useful for individuals who want to create redundancy. If you think about it, most Bitcoin wallets are non-multi-sig, meaning there's only a single private key that will unlock the funds to that wallet. And so, of course, we're all very careful in either writing down or chiseling into a steel plate the seed phrase and storing our backups in a secure way and our passphrases. But, if you think about it, it's still only one kind of private key. And so some individuals like the idea of multi-signature as adding a bit of redundancy. Another kind of relevant kind of concept to think about in terms of what I just said, there's a multi-party multi-sig, meaning the different individual owners of those respective keys are actually different parties. A good example of this is like Unchained Capital. So Unchained Capital provides kind of lending and borrowing services in a way where you still retain control of some of your private keys, and Unchained Capital has a key as well. And so in some of these kind of services that we'll see spun up, that's a pretty good paradigm. And so that's multi-party multisig. There's also kind of multi-factor multisig, which could just be, again, you yourself, an individual, wanting to diversify across the softwares. Each wallet is sort of software. And maybe you say, hey, look, like, what if something happens to my ledger? I don't want everything to kind of go with that. And so, maybe I set up a multisig that has another sort of key that would be required. Someone steals my ledger or whatever the case may be. So I want to also, though, importantly say that multisig is not for all users. You really, a simpler approach with like the cold card and adding a passphrase to that along with manual entropy. By the way, I cover how to do that in another video that I will link in the description. Like, that's going to be probably better for most folks. I really think the jury is in some ways out on multi-signature. It's great in concept, but it is a little difficult and complex to create and manage. And again, just take this into consideration, right? There are trade-offs, as with all choices when it comes to Bitcoin security. So multi-sig, again, could be good, but it really depends, like, what are you protecting against? Are you trying to enable this sort of joint ownership of a wallet, which certainly, can imagine a number of examples of that. Are you trying to protect against, like, what if someone breaks into my home and not only, steals and confiscates my phone, but also my, one of my cold storage devices? That would sort of render, the multi-sig setup moot at that point. So think critically about this. Have a look through this video and sort of see what you think when we get to the multi-sig setup process. But I just wanted to say that as a caveat that, the average user shouldn't just be kind of careening into this blindly. Really sort of take your time, build up from the basics. Multi-sig is not for everyone, at least currently, although we will probably see, better and better kind of interfaces and implementations of this over time. So with all that, let's now jump in and talk about Electrum and get into the tutorial itself. All right, so as always, we want to be extremely diligent to ensure we are on the right website. So it's electrum.org, electrum.org. Of course, I will paste this in the description down below, but be sure you are on the right place. In fact, Electrum has had phishing attempts in the past. I think this was a couple years ago where you had a malevolent actor spinning up a number of different servers that would basically try to push users to a website wherein they would ask for kind of personal information about your keys and all that. And so, of course, like, don't do that ever. But it goes without saying to ensure you're downloading this from the right place. And so you'll just go over to the download option here, and you'll see it has a number of different operating systems supported. For many of you who are either using kind of Windows or Mac, you'll see the respective files. And as always, I think getting in a good habit of verifying your downloads is always a good thing. And so if you scroll down, you'll see the directions here, how to verify GPG signatures. You'll see links here that will go into how to verify an Electrum download. I would definitely recommend doing this, again, just to ensure that what you're downloading is what you think it is. It provides more context here. I will link a video where I go into additional information about how to actually do this. I'm somewhat assuming you've done it before, but if this is your very first time verifying a signature, this guide actually goes through this very well and they're going to start with downloading GPG4Win, which is sort of the core implementation you need, at least in the case of Windows, which is the link I clicked on. So recommend doing that. But again, in my case for Windows, downloaded the Windows installer, and then Thomas's signature. I have done the verification, and so you'll essentially have these two files, the executable itself, and then the PGP verification. And so I have installed the Electrum application after verifying it. And so let's go ahead and boot it up for the first time. Quick couple of other notes. Electrum is open source under the MIT license. It's available for both desktop and mobile, and it is a Bitcoin-only wallet, in case that wasn't clear. So just a couple of points to keep in mind. You can see their previous releases as well. All right, so let's boot up Electrum for the first time. And actually, even before this, you may see a pop-up that says, do you want to essentially connect through Electrum servers in terms of how to get information about your transactions. And so this is essentially, do you want to use their nodes or your own? And so you can specify whatever you want there. And then you'll just see this very simple field asking for the name of a wallet. It's saying, the file does not exist, so this is just saying there is no wallet that exists yet. And so maybe I'll name it something like regular wallet test, and I'll go ahead and hit next. You will then see a menu that has all the different types of wallets that we can create, whether it's a standard wallet, which is what we're going to start with in this case, wallet with two-factor authentication, so this uses an authentication service. You can check this out more in their documentation. But that's definitely an interesting one. And then later we're going to come back and do a multi-signature wallet setup. Or of course, like most wallets, you can import private keys and kind of recreate that here. So let's go ahead and leave it as standard wallet. I'll hit next. And it says, do you want to create a new seed or restore it using an existing one? Again, we're doing this from scratch, so we'll say create a new seed. But you can also see here is where you would, link a cold storage device if you so wish. Cold card could be Trezor, Ledger, Kobo Vault. So there's a lot of, again, support for all of that. Let's go ahead and hit next. Now here are my here's my seed phrase, and so I'm going to write this mnemonic phrase down, and of course, gives the normal warnings, never share this. So I'm going to go ahead and do this quickly. We'll go ahead and hit next. And then it will ask you to confirm your seed. So you will literally type this back out just to ensure you have it. So I'll go ahead and do this quickly. And we'll hit next. And then it will ask me to create a password. So this is encrypting the wallet keys. You can leave this empty, but would always suggest putting one in. And it will even give you a rating here. There we go. Encrypt wallet file. I'll hit next. For security reasons, we advise that you always use the latest version of Electrum. Would you like to be notified when there is a newer version of Electrum available? You can say yes or no. I'll go ahead and hit yes. And so here we are. I'll go ahead and maximize this. This is the interface. So we are in Electrum 4.1.4. You'll see a couple basic tabs across the top. You have your history tab, which will show a history of all different transactions. Of course, this is brand new, so we won't have any. You've got a send tab, so this should look pretty normal. Number of different ways, QR code, pasting, etc. And it will allow you to configure the fees in the next step, as we'll see. Receiving funds as well, again, should look pretty standard. And then you'll also see these lightning channels. So I'm not going to necessarily talk about this in this video. I think this will be a good topic for a future video, but exciting to see that Electrum has added in lightning channels and the ability to manage channels directly here in Electrum. So that's quite cool. So let's go ahead and just quickly go through how to send and receive. So pretty basic. Let's go ahead and generate a new address. And so you'll see the address here over on the right. I can also do a QR code. And so I'm actually going to use the QR code here, and I'm going to use a different app on my phone, something called Blue Wallet. I've done a whole video on that if you are so curious. But I'm going to go ahead and scan the address here. And so I've copied this over. And I will go ahead and send, let's see, a little bit of Bitcoin. So let's let this come in, and then we'll go through how to send and move on from there. All right, so just a quick note as we're waiting, I can come over to the History tab, and we will see that indeed I have this unconfirmed transaction that will be coming in. I sent basically 500,000 sats from my other app. And you can even double click on this and see additional information. You know, we'll see it's unconfirmed, its position in the mempool, other different pieces of information. And so again, we'll let this get confirmed. All right, so we can see the transaction here. I went away for a little while, so it's actually all the way up to 3 confirmations at this point. You'll see this sort of, pie wedge. It'll go all the way up to 6, which is kind of a best practice for being really confirmed and settled. By the way, I did also go down to the bottom right here where it says Preferences. I clicked on Preferences and I changed the base unit to Satoshis. So you have some different options there. But while I'm here, you also have a number of different options and settings around transactions, whether you want replace by fee on by default, whether you want the advanced preview, etc. Lightning, fiat. You can choose your comparison fiat currency and where you want to source that information, and so on and so forth. At the bottom right, by the way, you can also change your password in this first option. You can reveal your seed if you put in your password. And the very bottom right is this network piece, which you don't really need to worry about. But it gives you context on the nodes that you're connected to. Okay, so let's just go ahead and also send some of our Bitcoin just to show that. So you have a number of options here. Paste from clipboard. You can open up the camera to read a QR code. You can read in a file. So this could be a partially signed Bitcoin transaction file. And so in this case, I'll just copy over an address. Maybe I name this Electrum test. And maybe I'll send 250,000 sats. You can save this for later if you wish, or you can hit pay and it brings up your handy slider. So if you're in a rush, you can drag the fees. If you are in no rush, you can drag it down to a more conservative level. Advanced just gives you kind of more color and clarity on all the different inputs and outputs that are going into this transaction. And then finally, I can put in my password and hit send. Payment sent. By the way, you do also have some handy features all on the top. If you go into the Tools menu, you'll actually see this Pay to Many option. So when you're sending Bitcoin, you can send to multiple recipients and potentially save on transaction fees if that's what you wish to do. You can load in a transaction from a file. So again, this could be a partially signed Bitcoin transaction with something like a cold card. Number of different options here as well. You can also, this View tab basically either shows or hides different tabs. So in terms of like coin management, you could show coins and see the different coins in your wallet. And then the wallet itself has a number of different options in terms of changing your password, showing your seed, being able to export your private keys, and a variety of other pieces. Let's go back to our history, and we will therefore see the unconfirmed transaction that we just sent out. So pretty standard, right? I mean, none of this is too crazy. Again, you do have a lot of additional kind of advanced features and functionality when sending transactions. Again, as per some of the preferences here. So do check out their documentation. I'm not going to kind of fixate on this today. The last sort of piece I'll cover before we jump into a multi-sig wallet setup is just how to create a backup. So you go to File and say Save Backup, and then this will just allow you to save a backup of this wallet. All right, so let's go ahead and now pivot to setting up a new wallet, this time a multi-signature wallet. All right, so I have closed out of Electrum, and so I will reopen it. As I do, just a overall caveat, I'm going to put some documentation in the description. Setting up a multi-sig can be tricky, especially considering that there's just various options and combinations by which you can do so. You could use only hardware wallets, like multiple hardware wallets. You could use a hardware wallet and non-hardware wallet. And so there's a lot of sort of combinations and ways that this could go that each kind of have their nuances. So I would just recommend, going through some of the documentation I provide and being very kind of methodical with this, test different things out, and ensure you're not kind of playing with a lot of funds until you're really, really sure that you've got the setup correct. I'm going to be using my Ledger device as one of the as sort of one of the signatures. And then I'm just going to create another Electrum wallet to serve as the other signature. So let's sort of jump in and show how to do that. I'm going to resize this. And so we're going to create multisig 1. You will have seen kind of whatever name, if you had previously created a wallet, you will see that name here. And it will ask you for your password, and so you could put that in if you want to access that. The choose menu also gives you the full menu of different Electrum wallets that you have created. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. We want to create a multi-signature wallet. I'll go ahead and hit next again. And this is nice. Electrum provides this kind of easy visualization to see the sort of K of N setup or structure for our multi-signature wallet. So the N is this first row from X cosigners. So N can be all the way up to 15. And then within that, you would select the K, or the number of required signatures. In this case, any 2 signatures of the 3 that have been designated in order to unlock and send funds from the wallet. Now, in my case, as I was describing just a moment ago, I'm going to do a 2 of 2. So again, for one of my signatures, I'm going to have my Ledger device, so kind of a hardware device. And then for the other wallet signature, I'm just going to have a sort of, a Electrum wallet, multi-sig wallet. All right, so let's hit next. Now I'm going to say, first and foremost, I'm going to say use a hardware device. And so I'll go ahead and hit next. And it will say no hardware device detected. That's because I need to put my PIN in again. And so I'm just putting my PIN code in on my Ledger device, and I'm in the Bitcoin application within my Ledger. I'm going to hit next so it rescans and indeed it finds my ledger nano S. So that's great. I'll go ahead and hit next. Indeed native SegWit is what I want here. So I'll hit next again. And it's now presenting me with a master public key associated with this cosigner. So I'm going to basically copy and paste this off to the side. For use later on. Okay. Now, when I hit next, it then says add cosigner 2 of 2. Well, I don't really, I don't know that yet. I haven't created the other wallet. Now, if you had a separate hardware device, you could specify that here and be on your way. If you kind of already had a public key from another wallet, you could enter that here. Be a little cautious with this cosigner cede. This can get weird. And again, this just goes back to my whole comment earlier around like be very careful with some of these settings. Like for example, if you put in the mnemonic phrase for another wallet here for your cede, that's essentially putting in the private key of that wallet. And what can happen is once you then set up the Multisig wallet, Electrum can take that private key and sort of sign on behalf of that other wallet, which is just not the behavior that that one wants when creating a Multisig wallet. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to exit out of this and create the other wallet whose public key we will then be able to add to this first one. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I will boot Electrum back up. Like conceptually imagine what we're doing is not just me, an individual with two of these things, but two different individuals. And imagine they're each running Electrum on different computers. That's sort of what we're working towards. So let me put in, multisig 2 and hit next. I want to create a multi-signature wallet, of course. 2 of 2, as we said. And so here I'm going to actually create a new seed, right? I'm going to just create sort of a different wallet that I will use as the cosigner 1. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And it is giving me the seed phrase. So I'm going to copy this and save it. Off to the side. Of course, don't share this. I'll go ahead and hit next. And it's going to test you and say, to ensure that you know your seed. And so I'm just going to paste it in again and hit next. And now I've got my master public key for this address. So I'm going to copy this as well. And now off to the side, I have my basically my two master public keys. So I'll go ahead and hit next. And now I can add the cosigner 2. I could have sort of done this reverse, but you'll see in just a moment that it doesn't really matter which of these we chose to do first. But let's go ahead and cosign with that ledger device. I could have just as easily kind of put in the master public key that I snagged earlier from that from the ledger. But it's still open, so it will scan, and it has found it. And this is indeed the path. And so now it is asking me to create a password to encrypt the wallet keys. So I'm going to go ahead and put in basic password. Make sure I typed that right. All right, and we'll go ahead and hit next. Okay, so now we've got multisig 2, and it's a 2 of 2 multisig. All right, so let's get some funds into the multisig. And so we can just go to the receive tab. This will look, basically very, very similar. I'll generate a new address and it will present me with a QR code. I can also grab the address here as well. And so I'm going to copy this address over to a different wallet, and I'll be back once the funds have arrived. All right, so we've got our confirmation here. We've got 200,000 sats in our multi-sig wallet. Now let's go to the send tab, and I will go ahead and paste in a wallet address I have from a different wallet. And let's go ahead and send maybe 150,000 sats. Now let's go ahead and hit pay. And we're presented with the option to specify our fee rate, which we can drag and drop all over the place. This would put it at a very low sort of level. Let's hit the advanced as well so we can kind of get a sense of everything going on. And so what I will do is go ahead and hit finalize. And you'll see this sign option and broadcast. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit sign, and I'll enter my password for this multisig. And it's going to propagate information over to my ledger. And so I am reading this over. I'm saying approve. It will give me the output to review, which is essentially the amount that's being sent as well as the change amount. And so I'm just kind of reading through the different addresses here, scanning to make sure that the destination all makes sense. And it does. And it'll basically present the different outputs, so both the amount, the amount that's being returned as well as the amount that's being sent. And so I will say accept. And I've gone ahead and applied the approval there. Now the last thing I just need to do is to hit broadcast. And it will say the payment was sent. So there you go. So what did we sort of do? And again, different setups are going to look different. But we created this multi-sig wallet using a just sort of random kind of Electrum wallet, as well as a ledger device. Now, if this was actually, not just myself, but I had a friend or someone with whom I was sharing this multisig, then that individual would create this same multisig wallet on their end using the two master public keys that we use to create this multisig. So they would essentially go into their version of Electrum, for example. They would see the same coin amount. They would see the same history, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I would urge you to sort of go through some of the documentation I'm providing in the description down below, because it really can get a bit tedious depending on the combination of wallets and technology that you're using to create these multi-sig wallets. But there you have it. Hopefully that gives you a interesting way to potentially add some additional security if you so desire, and certainly other use cases like having a wallet that can be shared across multiple parties. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap the video up. All right, there you have it. Just as a quick recap, we first talked about multi-signature itself, talked about some of the use cases in which it can certainly add value. However, we also talked about the caveat that it's not for everyone. And really, it's not even for the average user, at least in its kind of current set of implementations. And so don't feel kind of pressured to go and create a multi-signature wallet just because it sounds fancy and super secure. There are always trade-offs. And so you should take your time with everything here, weigh the pros and cons, do what you feel comfortable with, and build on that towards an ever more kind of secure and robust setup that you feel good with and that you can sleep soundly at night with. But then after that, we jumped into Electrum itself. We saw the incredibly flexible way in which you can create all manner of different wallets using Electrum, and so that's what I really value most about it. Whether that's connecting to your cold storage device, whether that is setting up a multi-signature wallet, as we took a look at today, regular wallet, you name it. And I didn't even cover a lot of the even more advanced features and functionality. Electrum's very interfaceable with command line. And so I'll link to their documentation in the notes below, in the description down below, in case you want to take a look. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave this video here. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, you already know what to do. Give this video a like. Comment down below with your thoughts, reactions, topics you'd like to see in the future. We've got a lot of exciting topics coming down the pipeline with more wallets like Spectre, Lightning wallets, some of the exciting stuff happening with Stacks and Sovereign. And so you will want to be sure not to miss anything. With that, we'll go ahead and leave this here for now. As always, every sat counts. And until next time, I'll see you then.